Good evening and welcome to the Stadium Journey podcast. We hope everyone out there is taking care of themselves and being excellent to each other. Get it? Being excellent. Bill and Ted trailer came out today. And after listening to the podcast, don't forget to go over to our website, stadiumjourney.com. Follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all of them at Stadium Journey. And the Stadium Journey podcast is proud to be part of the VOC Nation Radio Network. You can find our back catalog of episodes. To find our back catalog of episodes, simply search VOC Nation on iTunes or Android, or you can find our library of video simulcasts on Stadium Journey's YouTube channel, or check us out at the source, vocnation.com. And we simulcast all of our podcasts live at twitch.tv/danlaw83. And hopefully some of you are there right now. And just a warning to those of you who are watching us right now on Facebook Live or on Twitter, this will be the last episode that will live stream on either of those channels. So if you want to catch us live on Tuesday nights, catch us over on Twitch every week. So joining me now tonight, as always, is Dave Cotney. You can follow him at ProFan9. Mark Viquez is on social media at Ballpark Hunter. You can follow our producer, Dan Calachico, at DanLaw83. And I am Paul Baker. You can follow me at PuckmanRI. And we are very happy to be joined tonight by Angela and Aaron Bell, the owners, the operators, and the creative geniuses behind HockeyDocs.com. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. You guys sure sound busy. Holy cow, that's a lot of handles, a lot of cool stuff. It sounds like you guys are really bringing the good word out to a lot of people, and that's awesome. We're really happy to be here with you guys tonight.
Oh yeah, we're everywhere. We're as ZZ Top would say, we're bad. We're nationwide.
Right on. You're international tonight.
Yeah.
Well, if you're
you know what's funny?
You're Canadian, you would say we're like City TV because City
Right.
TV is everywhere.
Everywhere. That's right.
What's funny is we've been accused of having a very Canadian bias on this show because Dave, not that you don't do it, but Dave gets a lot of our guests, and a lot of them happen to be from Canada. So tonight, I hook up the guest, and what happens? They're from Canada. We just can't escape it.
You know what? Adding some Canadian element to your show is never going to be a bad decision.
That's right.
No.
Absolutely. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your website and what you guys do?
Yeah, for sure. So we have this website called HockeyDocs.com, and Angela and I have been we love making documentary films, and the thing we love making films about the most is hockey. So we've done a few along the way. We started with one. We live in Belleville, Ontario, Canada, and that's the home of our hockey's first family here is the Crawford family. So Mark Crawford and his 8 siblings, 3 of them played in the NHL. Their dad, Floyd, was the captain of the Belleville McFarlands, who won the World Hockey Championship with Belleville on their jersey in 1959. And we made a film several years ago about the Crawford family. And that was kind of the beginning for us of making some hockey films. And we loved it. We really enjoyed doing it. We had a heck of a time trying to find a distributor or anybody that was really going to be interested in helping us kind of do that. So we thought, well, what if we just started making our own films and put them up on our channel? And just like you guys have done, there's lots of opportunity to do that. So we've created a website called HockeyDocs.com, and we've had some cool sort of features along the way.
Yeah, we've done a series on some collectors. Paul, you're familiar with that.
Starring,
the one and only. So we did some traveling with that, obviously. That was quite fun. Yeah. And so interesting to get to know these people that have these amazing collections of hockey paraphernalia. It's fantastic. And we also, a few years ago, we traveled across Canada and interviewed 100 hockey players who had won the Memorial Cup. So that was really cool. Yeah. Really lots of fun there. Very busy, obviously. We were gone for, I think, 6 weeks, something like that. But
lots of miles. Yeah.
Lots of miles, lots of fun. And we do have one called Charging Bulls, and Dave is wearing his Belleville Bulls hat. So that's awesome. So, and that was all about our hometown hockey team, who unfortunately isn't here anymore, but we do have an AHL team now, the Belleville Senators. But this was when the Belleville Bulls were here, and they won the OHL championship in 1999. That's our one and only and only championship there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we might have been on the way to one this year too. I don't know. I know you guys follow the American Hockey League too. We had a pretty good team this year.
Yeah.
Like everything got kind of ended early and put on the shelf. But yeah, so that's hockeydocs.com, and we just love putting up lots of different stories there about this great game that we love so much.
Well, I'm not so sure about the Belleville Senators because Providence had won 13 in a row prior to the shutdown.
I
But
know.
you never know. You never
I'm
know.
just
Maybe
saying.
the Devils were playing pretty well.
Just saying they were
And
doing.
Dave, is your head burning? You're wearing something that's not a Kitchener Rangers.
Hey, it's up there, back there. See it?
Okay. So I guess we can segue into how we all got connected because, as you mentioned, Angela, it was through a series that you're doing called The Collectors.
yeah.
So, yeah, you started out with interviews of, I don't know what you want to call them, super fans. I'll call myself a super fan. Yes,
Yeah.
super fans is the word.
Sure.
Or people who have giant hockey collections. And you visited one person from each of the original 6. And you've made a short film about all those. So tell me about how that experience was.
Oh, it was amazing. We actually started in Toronto because it's close to where we live. It's only a couple hours away, and with a gentleman there who, Mark, who has an unbelievable Toronto Maple Leafs collection. So we were kind of blown away by that and got like even more interested than we were to begin with. We thought, oh, this is going to be great, but like to actually be there and see his excitement and see what he had and the stories behind it, it was just like, we got to keep doing this, right? So then we definitely were on a quest then to be like, hey, we want to do the original 6 first. And
yeah, to see this collection that he had. And then the second one, we went down to Detroit and we got a chance to spend some time with this guy named Felix Gatt, who Felix is this just kind old guy. And he, for 30 or 40 years, was best friends with Gordie Howe. And used to drive Gordie around as their wives were friends, was there right to the end with Gordie. And the collection that he had in his basement was just mind-blowing. I grew up a big Red Wings fan. Steve Yzerman was certainly the player that I watched the most. And, to see some of the stuff that he had in his basement, this one cabinet, we look and there's 1,000 Gordie Howe things. And he had Gordie Howe skates. We're like, wow. And then the next shelf up, it was Wayne Gretzky's game used skates, and then Mario Lemieux's game used skates. Like it just went on and on and on. The crazy amounts of stuff he had. The photos of him with Gordie and every other amazing NHL player that's ever played, all the Hall of Famers. And he was so gracious with us, spent a lot of time just kind of remembering some great stories about his time with Gordie and time at the mostly Joe Louis Arena. That was where he spent most of his time, Felix did. And just some amazing stories. And to get a chance to kind of hear the passion, hear the love for the game in that series was really something that we'll never forget.
And you said your goal was eventually to take it to all 32 teams in the league, if that's possible?
Maybe that would be awesome. We actually didn't get the 6 done. We still didn't get Montreal. So we had plans there and we were all kind of ready to do that. But yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of fun with it. That was kind of the one series that we really enjoyed making. Obviously, we got a chance to come down and visit you and see that amazing wall of Boston Bruins pucks and autographs, and that was really great. We got a chance to, while we were down near you, we got a chance to spend some time with Steve Babineau, who's a longtime Boston Red Sox, Boston Bruins, Boston Celtics photographer, and he actually took the photo on Wayne Gretzky's rookie card. So he kind of took us through that whole story, and that was just fascinating. Like just some of these amazing pieces of history of the game, the chance to kind of see some of those has been really cool. And then, so we know that there's so many stories out there. When we put these out, we got a lot of response from people that said, hey, you should check out this person's collection or this collection. And we're like, yes, we want to do all of them. And we can't wait to see them because like, it's hard to explain. And when we try to explain it, or even when you watch the videos, it's, I think, hard to appreciate. Like Mark Farah in Toronto, he's got like a whole basement that has like he's got a Ted Kennedy game used jersey. No, sorry, he's got a home and an away. He's got the puck that Gordie Howe scored the last goal of Maple Leaf Gardens, or the last goal, I forget what that was. Anyway, he's got like a game signed stick from a Stanley Cup winning Toronto Maple Leafs team. So, that's in black and white. Like, he just has so much stuff.
And then the barber chair where they got their haircut in the, like the 40s.
This is insanity.
Like,
and so then you leave, and of course, right away you think, well, what's the value? And we didn't really want to ask because that wasn't the point of the story, right? We didn't really care about the number. But I'm thinking $1 million would never buy that collection. I know it's not for sale anyway, but it's multiple for sure. And then we went to see Felix in Detroit, Felix in Detroit, like his stuff. It was just, I sat there, I think I just had my mouth dropped open, and I'm like.
We were so overwhelmed. Like, when we were there, we talked to him, and then we have to shoot like, some beauty shots or B-roll to tell the story as well. And we're like, I don't even know where to start. And then when we left, we're like, did we get everything? Like, were we in all the rooms? Did we and we couldn't even remember, like when we got back home and we're going through the shots and stuff. And we were just like, what, like,
it was amazing.
I don't remember this. And I remember this. And it was kind of crazy. But
it's incredible.
Yeah, it was good. But I love the stories. The stories are my favorite. And I love how the people who are collecting collect for a reason. They don't just, they collect for the story. There's a story behind everything that they have, and it's interesting, and it's really great.
Yeah.
So, well, in your journeys to record the collectors, what would you say is the strangest thing that you found in somebody's collection?
The barber chair was pretty odd. So we're like, what is this? And there's this barber chair, an old time barber chair in Mark Farah's basement. And we're kind of like, what is that? And it was the barber chair from Maple Leaf Gardens. He's like, every Leaf, like all of them, that's where they got their haircut. That was a bit strange. I thought that was a bit of a weird one. So much just kind of personal collection, right? And that was something that was, I think, just fascinating. Like, one of the things that really stuck with us, so Frank Marcy was a guy that we connected with in Connecticut, and he is a big New York Rangers fan and has a lot of New York Rangers memorabilia. And he kind of showed us some things, like, for instance, he had the game ticket from his first game that he ever went to in the NHL with his dad, came home and said, hey, the Edmonton Oilers? And he's like, of course I know the Edmonton Oilers. Well, do you want to go see them tonight? I've got a ticket. And he still had it. And the thing for me is, like, a lot of us had those things. We had the first ticket. We had a rookie card or this collection of cards, or we had these things. But for a lot of us, me included, over the years, those things kind of disappeared, whether they got mom threw them out or they got sold or just moved or whatever. They kind of disappeared. But to connect with people that had such a deep connection with it that they're like, I'm never going to let this thing go. I'm going to keep this forever. That was, to me, that was something that when we left, one of the things that we really kind of challenge ourselves is, how do we then make sure that we're doing justice to this story, right? Because I know there's some people that are going to look at it and go, well, what do you want a room full of hockey pucks for? But for somebody like Paul, who says, hey, for a long time now, I've been following the Bruins, Boston, and Providence, and that's been a big part of my life all along. And when I see those pucks and I see those signatures and I see those names, they bring back good memories. With Mark Farah in Toronto, he talked a lot about those memories of going to Maple Leaf Gardens as a kid with his dad. And, those are the things that kind of keep those memories alive. So we didn't see a lot of weird stuff, but the barber chair was weird. I thought for me, it was a bit weird, but it was pretty cool.
I'm kind of jealous. I'd like to have something like that and park it right in front of the television set.
It looked pretty comfortable.
I just wish you all hadn't come and seen me on a day when it was 95 degrees in the summertime, because
that was hot.
It was hot.
One of the things I always regretted as far as merchant memorabilia is I could have had a seat from the Spectrum, and I could use that. I could have that in my living room right now.
Yeah.
And I just didn't get down there fast enough when they started knocking that building down to get a seat. And I could have had it if I'd just gone sooner. And it kills me to this day that I don't have a Spectrum seat or a Civic Center seat.
Yeah.
It's just, drives me crazy. That guy has a barber chair from.
Mark, that sounds like the article you just published this morning about, what was it, Duncan Park in South Carolina?
Yeah, Duncan Park in South Carolina, after Shibe Park in Philadelphia was closed, it laid in ruins, and vagrants and looters would go in there and steal the seats. So somebody decided to take like 600 seats and transfer them down to Spartansburg, South Carolina, and put them at the ballpark. And they're still there. The seats from 1909. These are the original seats they had there.
What?
Yeah. If you go to Spartansburg, South Carolina, at Duncan Park, you can sit in these 1909 Philadelphia Shibe Park seats.
It means I can't fit in them then.
I sat in them. I actually snuck into that ballpark a few years ago. I'm not really proud of that. I'm too old for doing stuff like that. But I had to see these seats. And there happened to be a piece of the fence that was tied together by string. So I unraveled it, got my gut through there, walked down, and those are the pictures. I snuck in, but don't tell anybody.
Oh, sure. Well, guess what? The live stream dropped, so nobody heard you anyway.
Yeah.
And now those seats are worth valuable. Those seats are worth. I think a setter can fetch you about over $1,000.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
Yeah, that's become a collectible in itself, like chairs from old places. Like, I can't go to a memorabilia show without seeing somebody who's carrying a couple of seats from the old Boston Garden.
Yeah, I have two down here as we speak.
From where?
They're from Lineport Stadium in Lehigh Valley, which was built as a 1,000-seat mini version of Shibe Park. It's home for amateur baseball. But I donated $100 to their light campaign a few years ago, and they told me to take 2 seats, and they were already on a wooden plank so they could be ready to sit in. So I shipped them in the back seat of my car, brought them out to Indiana, and they're staring at me right now. So
nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, but doesn't some of that stuff, like for some people it crosses the line? I know in my house, I've had opportunities to buy seats as well, and I have plenty of stuff that is, over the top. I mean, on the far wall behind the camera are all my hats, right? And every time my wife comes in the office, she gives me the spiel on, she's an accountant, how much did all of those cost, right? But, seats, nope, that's the line.
My wife's like that too.
There are a few
we have had
things
fights
that are just over the line, and seats would be over the line.
Dave, I got another good one for you. So Mark Farah, he had 4 rooms full of Leaf stuff, and then he had a safe with some really cool stuff, like original or like first Cassius Clay boxing gloves kind of things. And then he had a room where he keeps sort of the spare jerseys, and on the wall he had this frame piece with Joe Carter's 92 World Series home run game winning spikes. He had the spikes on the wall. So I don't know if you would draw the line there or not, but I don't know what they would cost, but he had some amazing stuff.
Well, if I had Joe Carter spikes in my shot right now, Dan would totally cut my camera off. He'd never let me be online again.
Hold on. I shared a picture the other day of something Joe Carter related, and nobody gave me credit for retweeting it and being quiet. So I'm insulted. I'm insulted.
So is that just Joe Carter, or is it is it the
Toronto? Don't even start.
Is it Toronto Blue Jays? Should I go change my shirt?
No, it's because Joe Carter hit it off the Phillies.
Oh, okay. All right. Right.
And it still stings. We can tell. We found out. So Angela and I have only been married for 5 years, so we're both remarried to each other, of course.
You broke
I'm his other wife.
Carter.
We found out that we were actually in the same bar that night of the World Series.
Right.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Now, we live in Belleville, so this isn't
There's
it was the only bar in Belleville.
This isn't the most like we're not talking lightning striking twice here, but it was pretty cool.
Well, I don't care. Joe Carter broke this 10-year-old heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Hey, I've got to tell you, Dan, I mean, I feel for you because every time that I go to Citi Field, they have the bases out in the parking lot, and I go stand right behind first base, and I cry every time.
Yeah, how many World Series have you won
Yeah.
since then?
He
4.
cries into his Stanley Cup rings. And
Yeah, really. I don't want a series with the Citizens Ball. Don't you dare try to relate
Stanley
to me.
Cup rings.
No, no, don't relate to me.
I can't hear you. I've had my Stanley Cup ring in my ear.
Okay,
Patrick
brother.
Waugh.
Okay.
So how about we talk about some of your other projects, guys? Since Dave was wearing his Belleville hat, how about let's focus on some OHL stuff, the Memorial Cup memories. And
Yeah. So
excellent
Memorial
stuff.
Cup, the Bulls, 2 times the Memorial Cup, they lost both times. The second time was the Kitchener Rangers. So that was kind of, that was a tough one to take. That was
stinks.
PK Subban and Matt Bolesky were on that team. But yeah, so the Memorial Cup memories, that one I would say was the most challenging project we've ever done,
Yeah.
the most rewarding project we've ever done. So Angela and I had, we decided to cover as many players as we could in the summer because we knew that they'd be easier to find. Wrong. And then so we had this trip planned out. So Angela's boys were about 11 and 12 at the time, and we flew from Toronto to Winnipeg, Manitoba, and we rented a car. We rented a Chrysler 300 white, nice car, white leather seats. We did a 7,000 kilometer, which is, I don't know what, like 4,000 miles, somewhere in that neighborhood, trip around. Like, we were down into Montana, we were over through the mountains, we were over to Seattle, up to Vancouver. We were way up in like Edmonton, and like
When we took the car back, we
Oh.
handed them back the keys and said, thanks very much. It needs an oil change. And I'm sorry about all the bugs. Like, the front of it was black
Yeah, we
because of
destroyed
all the
this
bugs
car.
that it hit.
Oh, that happened to us when we were driving through South Dakota. Same thing.
Same
Giant
thing,
bugs
right?
everywhere.
Just
Yeah.
bug
Yeah.
guts.
So,
Just bug guts.
but that film, putting that thing together was such a treat. Like, to find these guys, and so many of them, they were so accommodating with their time. For some of them, they were like, stars. We interviewed Hockey Hall of Famers, Eric Lindros, Cam Neely, a couple of you guys will all enjoy there. Clark Gillies, like guys that were greats of the game. But we also interviewed a lot of guys that never went on anywhere from there, but went on to become, like I'm thinking Randy Heath in Vancouver. He played in that Portland team with Cam Neely, and he's the police or the fire chief in Vancouver. Or Dale McPhee, who's like the Minister of Justice for Saskatchewan. Like, all these guys that they went on and had these incredible lives after playing junior hockey. And so many of them just kind of pointed back to that experience when they were 19 years old and coming together to win this Memorial Cup. And to go on and do that, where that took them in their career or in their future was just a fascinating story. Now, I know Dan's on here. Probably 88 was probably a big guy for him along the years. I know as a Belleville Bulls fan, when Oshawa Generals and Lindros came to town, we were not happy about it because he basically just dominated them.
I was happy because I thought he was cute. But
So we get Eric Lindros lined up for an interview, and we're pretty excited about it. We're a little nervous about it. Like, we're a little unsure what's this going to be like. So he's a big guy, right? He's still a big guy. And so we got a chance to meet him at a hotel in downtown Toronto. And that same day, we had talked to Brian Bellows, and that was really cool. And so Eric Lindros comes in, and we meet him. We don't get starstruck very easily, but we were a little starstruck. I would admit that for sure. So we get to this hotel. Now, we're from Belleville. We told you that already. We're not very big city here. So we get to the hotel, and first things first, I drive right into the parking garage myself. Guy comes running out. Dude, this is a valet. Like, we are going to park your car for you. And we're like, okay, no problem. So fine. So we go in and we meet the concierge that's going to help us with this meeting room we lined up for our interviews. So he says, hey, give me your parking thing and I'll take care of that and make sure your parking's good. I'm like, okay, good. So that'll be cool. So then we talked to Brian Bellows. That was great. We had a couple other interviews lined up. So then Eric Lindros is coming. We're a little nervous. We're like, okay. So he comes in, really nice guy. great big mitts on him still. Holy, like his hand
Oh,
just completely
It swallowed
enveloped your
mine.
hand, right?
But
And
I
I'm
don't
thinking,
really have big hands.
could you imagine getting hit by that? Anyway,
Yeah.
today at however old he is now, right? Still, but anyway, so we have him in, we
Great
do the
interview.
interview. Yeah, really cool. You've seen him. He's pretty stiff, like not a real open kind of guy. We got a chance to kind of
He laughed.
get the defenses down a little bit, which was great because he opened it up a little bit. So, okay, good. We're done. Hey, this worked out pretty well. No need to be intimidated or anything like that. So then he says, so what do I do about parking? And I'm kind of like, I don't know. What are you going to do about parking, right? So I said, come with me. I know the concierge. He'll hook us up, right? I'm thinking of Mr. Big Shot. I go around the corner. Guy's not there. That's my only, I got no other bullets in the chamber. That's my only shot at this, right? So he's kind of looking at me like, so what are we going to do? So I said, well, here's my card. Just pay for the parking and then email me and let me know and I'll settle it for you. It's like, okay. So I go back in. I'm like, you're not going to believe what happened. So I tell Angela, she's like, no way. He's not going to, what's he going to do? Send you a bill for like $15?
It was 30.
$30, whatever.
Toronto.
So I get a text, Aaron, here's the receipt. I'm like, okay. So I I don't know what you guys use there. Interact transfer, like I e-transfer Eric Lindros $30 in my email. And I saved it forever. I still have it. If I search Eric Lindros on my phone,
Accepted
Eric
your
Lindros accepted your $30. So
Hey, I've got a couple of things like that on my phone too.
yeah, it was a weird one. I don't know why. I don't know what that says about him. I don't know what that says about me. It just seemed.
Maybe you could start your collection there. You could
wish I
print it
knew-
off and put it in a frame.
I
and
wish
put
I
it
knew what
in
he
the wall.
drove there. Like, could you imagine if I could
Like a
say, so
Lambo.
he drives out in his,
Yeah.
Lamborghini or whatever.
Yeah.
You should have sent him a check that he would have had to sign the back, and then you would have had, there you go, collected.
There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
He would have charged me for that for sure. So the moral of the story, if you ever go for lunch with Eric Lindros, bring your checkbook because you're probably paying.
picking up the tab.
I know some folks that could probably make it happen, but he wouldn't like what I have to say. What I would have to say about him now. No, I don't have a problem with Eric. I have a problem with the Philadelphia. It's time to move on, guys. I'm ready to move on.
From this segment of the show or just in general?
No. I mean about the Flyers. I'm talking about like Lindros and the.
Wait a minute, when did Lindros leave the Flyers?
Well, he's
the
back
time Joe
with the-
Carter?
90 something?
About the time Joe Carter broke their hearts?
You guys, you Toronto, you Canadian fans. I'm
One
telling you.
thing about that whole thing, though, has there ever been, like, Bobby Clark, growing up, I wrote my grade 6 speech about Bobby Clark. I love that guy. Has anybody ever been a more loved player and hated executive in the history of sports?
Oh,
Ooh, good question.
well, I took Bobby's side on that. On the Lindros
But
thing.
in general, right? Like, and then,
Yeah, Ron
can't say Claude Giroux's name at the draft.
Yeah, Ron Hextall. Ron
Yeah.
Hextall right now has replaced Bobby Clark in that town as the most loved player and then hated GM.
Wow.
Like he's
Okay.
absolutely
Tough crowd, eh?
he's displaced him.
Maybe
Because
it's
everybody's
just a
like
delay.
now, because everybody's like, well, Bobby wasn't so bad, but God damn it, Ron Hextall, you're
What about Mike Milbury?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but that's
nobody loved him as a player.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's hate. That's not love hate.
We
That
already
should-
learned how to hate him.
Yeah.
So, you guys did the Kitchener Ranger one from '82, which was amazing. You already mentioned Brian Bellows, who was literally my very first ever favorite hockey player. I was 6 when they
Yeah.
won the Memorial Cup that year.
Yeah.
But you guys, the rest of you guys, if you haven't seen the Rangers one yet, you definitely have to, because there they are, Scott Stevens, Al McInnes, the whole crew, winning the Memorial Cup in the
Cooperalls.
Cooperalls. It's amazing.
Cooper Alls, you see, yeah. You know what's a cool thing about that story, too? So we're going to tie this right back to Belleville again because we can't help ourselves. So the previous year, Lou Crawford was a rookie with the Cornwall Royals. Mark Crawford, his older brother, was the captain. And Floyd Crawford was at the game in the finals. Kitchener is playing Cornwall. At the time, Cornwall's playing in the Quebec League, but they got their players from Ontario. So this is before like there was a host team in the Memorial Cup like there is now. So this is, we believe, the first time brothers ever played against each other in the Memorial Cup, because at the time it would have been really hard for that to happen. So reporter goes to Floyd, who's this, like, he's a hard ass guy. Like, this guy was like old time hockey, right? Who are you cheering for? Like, how do you pick which team to cheer for? And he said, Cornwall all the way. Louis got another shot next year. This is his chance to do it. And sure enough, next year, Lou goes to Kitchener. They got that unbelievable team. Scott Stevens and Al McGinnis on the same team in junior. Are you kidding? Like, that's your blue line?
On the same line.
Oh, on the same line. And Lou wins it the next year. So yeah, that was a fun story for us too. And getting a chance to talk to Steve Larmer a bit about it. He was great and really fun to catch up with him. And some of those stories, the crazy thing was for these guys, so that one there is what, almost 40 years ago. And like these guys still have such great memory for detail of what happened and how it happened. And they have, like, in their home, Steve Larmer, he's got the Molson Cooper Player of the Game medal that he got at the Memorial Cup. I don't think any of them kept those big square TVs they used to give away, but like it was just amazing to see that impact that had on their lives. It was really cool.
So while Dave was mentioning, you got to check these out. How about we let our listeners know, because I'm sure their interest is piqued. How can they access the videos on your site? Because you run by subscription, correct?
Yeah. So we kind of actually paused that a little bit because we don't. So the idea of this was, let's make this website. It's a subscription site. People can subscribe and kind of watch all they want. We can take all that money and we can go make a whole bunch of more films. That's the plan. And that at some point is going to be it. We just don't have enough there yet. So you can go on and kind of just pay, like if you want to watch the collectors, I think it's $5 or something like that. So if you go to hockeydocs.com, you'll see sort of all those different the different films that we've got there and kind of how you can watch each one of them. We've had a lot of fun making them. We're really hopeful that somewhere soon down the road, well, hopefully once all this passes and we can get back out again, but definitely this fall, we're looking forward to adding some cool news stories to that roster for sure.
Not a lot. I think there's a lot of films there on the site already.
I guess some of the questions I have, how long does it take to make your documentaries, and how much based on you're just a 2-person operation, correct? Is there anybody else helping?
No, you're looking at the whole team.
Just us.
Yes,
we do recruit the kids sometimes for some.
It must be a lot of time, a lot of effort. It must be a love. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we definitely we have a lot of passion for it. When we get those stories and when we meet people like Paul is a great example that, didn't know us, we kind of reach out by email or Facebook or however we try to connect with people, and people are usually very gracious and say, yeah, okay. I mean, if you want to talk to me, that's cool. Even some of these players that have gone on to great things in their careers. But once we talk to them and we kind of get that story, we get so excited about being able to take that story then and share it with people. We ran into people that had never, that people didn't talk to them anymore. Like people didn't ask for them, right? We had that great one in
Stephen
Montreal.
Lowe,
yeah, where we were in Montreal and we were doing some different interviews there, that kind of thing, and that was really cool. And and this one guy, Stephen Lowe from the Hull Olympics in '97, he was the captain, and we ran into him, or we brought him there to do an interview with him.
He was so excited. Like when he walked into the room that we were interviewing him in, he's like, guys, I couldn't sleep all night because I was reliving my memories from winning that Memorial Cup, and it was just so exciting. He's like, I had goosebumps, and I couldn't sleep. And he was just lit right up. Like he was just so much excitement coming off of him. And he's like, like I'm into construction now. And he's like, back then it was so great because people were like, hey, you're Stephen Lowe, and wanted to shake his hand and congratulate him. And he's like, I'm in construction now. Like nobody shakes my hand anymore. So we go and do the interview. And then afterwards we were interviewing Claude Julien. And so him and Stephen were talking for a bit because they hadn't seen each other for years and years and years. And then Stephen Lowe's walking out down the hallway, and I was walking with him. And this lady comes up and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're Stephen Lowe." And he's like, "Yes." And she's like, "I was 12 years old at the arena and watched you win the Memorial Cup. Can I shake your hand?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm going to cry." And I said, yeah, and I said, "You said nobody said they wanted to shake your hand anymore." And it was just such a cool story. Like, I have goosebumps.
Yeah. And so like, if you ask how long does it take, it takes forever. Really. There's a lot of time for sure. I would say for some of these shorter, like the 10-minute pieces, we probably like, researching it, trying to set up the interview, putting it together, editing it. We're probably like a week or so to put something like that together. Usually the edit takes the longest because, we really put a lot of pressure on ourselves to really tell that story in a strong way. And we had a good example. So John Druce, a lot of you remember John Druce from playing in the NHL, Washington and LA. And John Druce was a coach of the junior A team nearby here, the Wellington Dukes. Not this past season, but last season. And so we went down, and I actually got to know him a little bit. He used to be a broadcaster for the Canadian Hockey League and did some Memorial Cup games. So I got to know him a bit through that. And so same thing, reached out to him and said, "Hey, we'd really love to kind of tell your story if you're into it." And he's like, "And we don't know, like, he was a pretty good NHL player, right? I mean, there's some demands, people asking him to do stuff along the way." And he said, "Yeah, I'd love to. I'd be honored to do that." And so we went down and we filmed him in on the ice with the team, and then we filmed a game and we did a nice interview with him. And we put together a nice piece on him. I think it's about 10 minutes or so. And it really, we of course know the person that we're doing this on, and it means a lot to us what they're going to think of this, right? And Paul, we send it to you first is, "Hey, we want you to have a look at it. We want to make sure you're comfortable with everything that's in it and that you like the story that we're telling." And John came back and he said, "It's my dream to coach at a higher level." He said, "Do you think you could just go ahead and send this to like every GM in the OHL, every GM in the NHL?" Because, it really, like he said, I sometimes I'm like, I don't even really remember saying that, but I sounded like I really knew what I was talking about. And that for us, when we left, we were like, he's a really good guy and he really knows a lot about this, but sometimes it doesn't translate into the story, right? Or into on the screen. And that's something for us, we really put a lot of time and energy and effort into doing that. So we could probably edit it in a couple of hours, and we do, and then we go back and we go back and we go back and we go back until we're sure that it's going to give people goosebumps, make people say, "Wow, I'm really glad that I invested that time or spent the time with you."
So can we sort of shift maybe into your personal home biases? What's it been like with the transition from the Belleville Bulls to the Belleville Senators? I mean, I wrote the first Stadium Journey review for the Bulls, the Yardman Arena.
Yeah.
And then a few years later they were gone, and I went back and wrote the first review for the Belleville Senators. And I don't know if it was the time, but I had some pretty significant reservations about whether the Senators were actually going to make it or not.
Yeah.
So how have you found the transition from the OHL, the Belleville Bulls, to the AHL, Belleville Senators?
Sure. So we, just to give you a little bit of background, so Angela and I actually both worked for the city of Belleville for a little while. Angela did for a long time. I did for about a year. And so we got to know like the director of recreation, the mayor, really well. And through that transition, when the Senators deal was coming together, we were in on that. We were part of that sort of communications team and that kind of thing. So we saw, well, the very first person that said it to me was Mark Crawford. He said, "Well, what if we brought an American Hockey League team here?" And I'm thinking, like, what are you talking about? There's no way you're bringing an American Hockey League team. Everybody else was thinking like a tier 2 junior A team, or maybe just wait and see what happens, right? And once that idea settled for me, I started getting pretty excited about it. I thought, wow, that would be a pretty cool thing, right? There aren't, I think there's 3 or 4. Well, that was the same year that Montreal came in, so 4 Canadian teams in the whole league, and we were pretty excited about that. I don't think it's connected with people quite the same way that the Bulls did. People here, hockey fans here, really, a lot of them grew up on the Bulls. And the Bulls for a long time were Dr. Bob Vaughn, who just passed away last year. He was the owner, and Larry Mavety was the coach and GM. And it was old school hockey. It was, if you didn't like the power play, you could go to Mav's bar and bitch to him about it, and he'd bitch right back to you about it, kind of thing. It was a real community kind of thing, right? Doc's stepson played on the team. One of Doc's daughters married one of the guys that played on the team. It was a family kind of thing. And I know for me growing up here, that was something that really connected for me. Then as the league grew and the teams got way more expensive, that's when I think Doc kind of looked at it, and he was getting to retirement age and said, this has probably passed me by a little bit. And he was a huge part of, he was the OHL chairman of the board of governors for a number of years, and very helpful to me for my career in getting into the Ontario Hockey League. And I think that transition, Gord Simmons bought the team, and he owned the team for a long time. They had some really good years under Gord Simmons, but you could just kind of see that there was a disconnect between the community and the team. And a lot of people blame Gord Simmons for that. I blame Gord Simmons a little bit for that, but I also think that the community it was almost like the OHL outgrew the community a little bit, right? They didn't kind of keep up with it. And I honestly, I never believed they were going to leave. I thought if it got bad enough, they'll figure out a way to keep it here. I got a chance to work with David Branch very closely for a very long time, and I really believe he's not going to let that happen. They're going to figure out a way to keep the team here. It's an important part of the balance of the league. The Bulls played Saturday nights, which was a bit of an exception for the OHL. And when they left, I know for me personally, it was a big blow. I was really, really rocked by it. I was very surprised. I was shook by it.
It was so fast.
It was
like, boom, boom. Yeah. All of a sudden, they're in Hamilton.
Yeah.
It was a weird thing because I was still at the city then, and I was ready to go for afternoon break, and all of a sudden it was like, hey, did you know the Bulls are gone? And it was like, what? And Aaron had already quit his job, and I texted him, and I'm like, the Bulls are gone. And he's like, no, they're not. And I'm like, no, they are. And a few minutes later he came back, he goes, yeah, I just confirmed that they are gone. And I'm like, how? Why? Yeah. Why is this happening? It was, and it was just everybody around was just kind of very somber, very sad. And that final game was so sad. We all cried. It was, and Bignell came out and laid his jersey down on the ice, and I don't think there was a dry eye in the place. Yeah. It was just,
and for me, that was a big part of my career. I was a photographer for the league, and that was obviously the hometown team. I shot all of those games, and it was a tough one. And then to see Hamilton have success. So a lot of people don't know this. The last game I ever shot was the game that Hamilton won the OHL championship. I have not shot an OHL game since then. In the 3 years since then, I've managed the other photographers. I haven't had a camera in an OHL rink since then, and I won't. That kind of just ended it for me. Then the Senators came, and all of a sudden we're going, well, this is exciting, very high-level hockey. People were excited, cautiously optimistic. I think as soon as they were even talking about it, right away people were, well, but they're not going to stay long, right? They're not going to be here long. I think people were very hesitant of that. The rumor I kept hearing a lot was, well, the Senators are going to get their building in downtown Ottawa, and then they'll move this team to Canada where they play now. And to me, that doesn't make any sense. You got two junior teams there. It's not a super strong market to begin with. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. Them being here did make a lot of sense. They did a nice job, I think, with the building. They took the bones that they had, took it down from the Olympic size ice surface that it was known for. But I think they did a pretty good job with it for the amount of money that they had. They couldn't have done that for the OHL team. It took them more than a year to do it. I think the problem, though, is people still, if they weren't feeling warm and fuzzy and connected to Gord Simmons as the owner of the Bulls, Ottawa's a whole other level of, having a hard time just connecting. And I don't know, maybe a lot of communities people wouldn't understand that, but this is 50,000 people. Like, it's still a small town, and it has that attitude or that feel to it. And I think that it's hard for people to warm up to it. This year 3, they were going to make the playoffs. They maybe would have had a chance to even get out of the first round, or maybe move along a little bit in the playoffs. And I think that might have captured people's attention a little bit more. I think people are struggling a little bit with the schedule. They do a lot of like Wednesday, Friday, Saturday in the same week, which is, it's a lot of games. So now you're not getting the same people necessarily in all those games. I think they're going to have a tough road ahead. I think that they're going to have a hard time getting that connection. If you asked people in the building, if you polled the whole building, would you trade this team for the OHL team? It would happen in a heartbeat, which is surprising, because the AHL team, obviously it's a higher level. But it's a tough sell for a community that grew up on that.
Well, Canadians just don't like minor league hockey. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, each city's a little different. Binghamton, New York, likes AHL hockey, nothing else, not independent. And some of the Maritimes lost a lot of their AHL franchises due to the league moving into bigger markets. So it's tough. It's tough. I definitely understand what your city's going through.
Yeah.
Well, you were saying about connecting with the owner. Look at Ottawa, and Ottawa, as far as an NHL market is a small NHL market, but there is some serious disconnect between Eugene Melnyk and the Senators. And just 2 days ago, or yesterday, there was a big thing about the Ottawa Senators Charitable Foundation and the Senators and Melnyk, and then now the CRA, Canada Revenue, is going to be looking into it, because where's the money all going? And it is a bad situation. And I fear, Belleville being linked sort of, at arm's length, but still just, I wouldn't want to be near that situation.
Yeah, it feels pretty close to home. The good news is we got the building now, right? So they can do that. The downside to me too is we found this out when we did the Charging Bulls film. The good old days. Hey, the good old days. We remember the joint was packed. It was full. But when we started looking at those games, there was 3,500 people there. It was that's the capacity of the building at the time. It was jammed in the finals. It wasn't jammed in the regular season. They were drawing 2,500, 2,600, and that's right up until they left. They were maybe down to 2,200, 2,300. But now with the Senators, when they're getting a lot of games, those January, February games are around that same thing. So maybe it's just, hey, maybe you just think that it's more popular than it is.
All right, so since we've got you on the Stadium Journey podcast, we're going to put your feet to the fire here. Let's talk about some of your favorite buildings. And we don't have to limit this discussion to hockey. We don't have to stick to the OHL. Just, you guys have been to a lot of different places. What are some of your favorites?
Yeah, this one was pretty good.
Fenway.
Paul, we put that one up for you. So I'll let Angela tell you a little bit about this, because I've been talking a lot. But I definitely have some favorites from hockey. But we kind of started this baseball journey a little as well. And
we talked about that when it came down.
What some of you guys have done.
Yeah. So quite a few years ago, when we were in Philly, which was quite a few years ago, because I think the boys were 8, 9, or 9 and 10, something like that. So we went to a Philly game, so a baseball game, and that was a lot of fun. And I remember coming home, and I was telling my dad about it, and he was like, "Oh, that's really cool to be able to do that." And he's like, he's gone to Toronto a few times to see the Blue Jays play, and he was always watching baseball on TV. So he passed away about 1.5 years ago. And before he passed away, he said to me, "Remember when you went to Philly?" Like, he's like, "I would have loved to," like he said, "I think that was a really great thing for you to do, and a great experience for the boys and stuff." And he said, "I would have loved to have been able to go to every Major League Baseball stadium." So he passes away, and I took his ball glove and I said, "You know what? I'm going to go to every Major League Baseball stadium. I don't care how long it takes, and because it's going to take a while. But I take his glove with me, and we've been to 4 of them now. So, and I take his glove and I put it somewhere, and I take a picture, and he's there with me, and so we do that. So
yeah, last summer we got a chance to. So we went to Wrigley. So the first time for either of us to Wrigley, and then like a week and a half later, we had the boys with us. We went to Fenway. And then we took them down to New York and went to Yankee Stadium. So we saw those 3 in about 10 days, which was a pretty cool start. And then we had a bunch of plans for this summer that are all on hold. So we were looking forward to going down and kind of doing the Detroit, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, that sort of area, some of those kinds of.
But we went for a tour here at Fenway, which was really cool before the game, and we got to go up on the Green Monster, and Aiden, my youngest, got a ball. So because we watched them do their batting practice, so that was pretty cool. And they got a ball at Yankee Stadium too. So one of the fielders threw it up to him.
Yeah,
and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, so we're excited about that tour, and we're not really in a rush to get it done. We're just
we
I'm
think
with you there.
Yeah. We had a lot of people that were like, "Oh yeah, you're going to do it all in one season." I'm like, no. Like, that's nuts.
No. The best part about that, for me anyway, we've talked about this a lot on this podcast.
Yeah, no, we have.
Seeing the cities, experiencing the city, not rushing through. I mean, that's fine for some people, but I think we're all of the same mind here.
Yeah. We really want to experience the city too, and take some time to take in the city as well, and do something while we're there, baseball and something else. So.
Well, let's see. Mark, I think, has been to what, 24 major leagues, 27?
No, I've been to 28 27 now, but 28.
Dave, you've been 28?
28.
27.
And I'm the least. I've been to 21.
Slacker.
Yeah,
Dan's like,
it's been to 4. Come on.
I haven't been to Miami, and I haven't been to Washington, but now it's Texas, so technically.
I don't want to be where the enemies are.
You know what's the great thing about it is, I think for both of us, we're fans of the game, but we're not like, we're not ride or die with the Blue Jays kind of thing. So what we've really enjoyed is, like, we'll go to the store and grab a hat or a shirt or whatever and go to the game. And we went to Wrigley as Cubs fans, and then we went to Fenway as Red Sox fans, and somehow then we went to Yankee Stadium as Yankees fans.
Brady almost
wore his hat.
Could not do it.
Brady was going to wear his Red Sox hat at Yankee Stadium. I'm like, no, you're not doing that.
It's overstated. I've done it many times. I mean, I'm a big guy, but it's not like it used to be. You don't have to worry about you. You don't have to worry about, and if they did, they'd be sorry, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But
nobody's going to mess with a 15-year-old kid.
Right.
I saw Yankee fans take a Red Sox cap off a girl in the bleacher seats back in the 1990s. Girl in her 20s.
All right, let's not talk about the Veterans Stadium, though. Let's move on.
No,
They threw snowballs at Santa Claus.
They threw hot nacho cheese on me. Philly fanatic.
And I've always, from a hockey standpoint, I've always kind of seen the hockey rinks as a bit of a workplace, right? Because that's what I've done for the last 20-some years. And but one of the best part for me has been the Memorial Cups, like getting a chance to go to those communities and spending 10 days or 2 weeks there. That's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. I would say, though, from a hockey standpoint, like the Odd in Kitchener, I'm not sucking up to Dave here, and we've had some bad memories at the Odd in Kitchener, but for a junior hockey rink, I mean, it just has everything. It's got, it's got character, it's got history, it still has some modern feel in some places, very few places, but they've done a great job of continuing to kind of upgrade that. And the Rangers just announced Joe Birch as their new president. I know Joe very well through through working with the league, and he's a great guy. I think he's going to do some wonderful things there. Steve Biankowski, who he's replacing, Steve's retired. He's really done some amazing things there that I think is going to be exciting to see where that goes. There's a lot of great rinks, but to me, the baseball stadiums they feel different. They feel different. They look different, right? Like I've been to tons of NHL rinks for the draft, and people say, "Oh, what's that rink like?" I'm like, "Well, it looked exactly the same as the other one for the draft. Like the facade was a bit different, but when it's set up for that, they kind of all just blend together, right?" But so we're excited.
They're pretty unique, yeah.
That's why those small junior rinks and the small college rinks are really where I like to go, because that's where you get character. Like, yeah, like you said, an NHL rink, once you get inside, it's the same dimensions. It's
Yeah,
pretty similar. But those old barns that you come across are just
some nice ones
special.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just go east and cross the border, and those ones have some serious character. You know, some of those northern Quebec ones, wow.
Oh,
Chicoutimi and Val-d'Or and
I'd love to go there.
Rimouski, they're just amazing.
They're still allowed to smoke. No.
Maybe not. I still
Maybe not.
say to this day, like this, the oddest thing I've ever seen is in the Ontario rinks. You used to have the big portrait of the Queen, and that was everywhere. In Chicoutimi, still to this day, they don't have a giant portrait of a Queen. They have a giant crucifix. Hockey and God and family, and that's it. That's all there
It's
is.
there.
They're
Yeah.
all meshed into one.
It's a different culture in northern Quebec in hockey. It is serious business.
Oh, so Dave just texted me. I asked anybody if they had any more questions, and Dave said, "Yeah," but then the podcast will end up being about 3 hours. So I've got to keep this train kind of on the tracks and say we're gonna have to wrap it up.
Curfew?
But before, well, yeah, I do. But before we do, I want to ask you guys if you have any projects coming up that you want to share with us, or once again, pimp out your website and tell people how to find you and your work, your fantastic films, especially starring yours truly.
Which is the best
The
one
best
we've ever
one.
done, without any doubt. Yeah. So we kind of, everything's a little bit on hold, like everything else. We're working on some other sort of projects to try to help finance the hockey side, the film side. So that's one.
Yeah, it's not profitable.
Yeah, one though that we have been working on, and Paul, you like this, is we've been working a little bit on this one series called The Art of the Mask, and this is goalie masks. Like, there's nothing in sport that is individual like a goalie mask, right? And we're fascinated by this. Angela's youngest son, Aiden, he's a goalie, so that's been part of it, and we've worked on his masks along the way. But we did this really cool. We shot one with a guy named Frank Sipra, who's done a lot of masks along the way. And he did one with Andrew Raycroft, when Andrew Raycroft, who's from Belleville, of course. But when Andrew Raycroft was in Toronto, he did this amazing mask with some of the greats on there. Johnny Bauer's on there. Doug Gilmour's on there. It's a really great mask. And so we got a cool story about that. We had the mask in our studio. We got a chance to talk to Frank in his studio. We had Andrew Raycroft come by and kind of tell us about it. And that's kind of just the beginning of that series. We're really excited about that. One's going to be a lot of fun, meeting some of these people, these artists that have made these incredible creations. And then, of course, the collectors. We cannot wait to get back at that. And we found an amazing collector in California that we really want to get to. We're a long way from there, so it's going to cost. We're going to need to figure out the budget on that one. But yeah, all that at hockeydocs.com. You can kind of see that. You can see the social media from there, and that's where people can kind of see that stuff and see what we've been working on and watch some of those stories if you've heard a bit about it and you're interested. But our plan there is to just keep filling that thing with lots of great stories.
It's some great stuff, and people talk about getting lost down the rabbit hole. You can absolutely do that at
Yeah.
hockeydocs.com.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you were talking about, I keep thinking through this podcast, what a small world the hockey world is. You were just talking about Andrew Raycroft, and we were talking about him when you came down and saw me last summer. And then you went up and filmed with him. And about a week after that, I remember bumping into him at the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence, and we talked about your film. So,
Oh.
Crazy, eh?
Yeah, that was funny because when we were down to see you, we were supposed to meet him
Right.
down there as well, and then
He ended up being here while we were there.
when we
and
were
then-
there,
yeah.
so that didn't work out. And then when we came back home, then he was back again. I think a month later, so he came to see us, and then we did the interview there. So that was really cool.
Yeah. One other quick one I'm going to just give you a little sneak peek on. We want to do this one. We're really hopeful we're going to get to do this one. We put out some feelers, but I mentioned the Crawford family a few times. And one of the brothers, Bob Crawford, he was the first one in that family to play in the NHL. And he played for the Hartford Whalers. And he's actually still in Hartford. And he operates some hockey rinks in Hartford and helps young people learn how to play hockey and that kind of thing. And we love this idea of making a film, whether it's a short film, a long film, called The Whalers Effect. and how a team that's been gone so long and should be completely out of the memory of the community still has this huge impact there. And those are the kind of stories that for us we get really excited about, because there are people there that they want to talk about it, they want to remember that, and they want to just say, hey, you know what, even though the team's gone, the community's a better place for having them there. And for us here in Belleville, we felt that exact same thing. Even though with the Bulls being gone, our community is a better place because they were here.
Yeah, that we talk about the Hartford Whale all the time on here, and Paul says that team was not as popular as they are now, and you just wondered why was that. There's a junior hockey team in Kansas City. They just rebranded as the Kansas City Scouts, who played 2 years. Last time they played was 1976. And based on the articles you read, people are excited that this name is being brought back. And I'm thinking, really? Like, the last time this team played, I was in diapers. It wasn't that successful. Y'all
good old
moved, not
days.
once.
The good old
Y'all
days,
moved. Yeah,
right?
the good old days.
Yeah, the
Well,
nostalgia.
in 40 years, I'll be doing it again. But anyway, the diaper part. But anyway, it's like you moved not once but twice, but yet this name is bringing back nostalgia. So I don't know if that's perpetrated by articles or books or a new group of fans who never saw the Whale play, and now they love the colors, they love the brass bonanza, they love the fishtail logo. It's I would love to look at that, because when I was growing up, the Hartford Whalers, you always wondered why was there a professional team in Hartford? It never made sense. They were always terrible. I don't remember them ever being good.
They won one division title.
They won some Didn't they win some WHA titles?
Yes, they won a couple of, what was it, Avco Cups?
Yeah.
Avco Cup. So that'd be an interesting. I would love to.
With the Golden Jet.
And if you need Golden Jet. Wasn't that Winnipeg? Wasn't he?
He played in Hartford as well.
Oh, he did. Yeah. That Gordie Howe.
Not for long, but he did.
Yeah. Okay. Oh wow.
And this was the anniversary of. This week was the anniversary of Gordie Howe's retirement, and I realized that when he retired, his final retirement, he was the same age that I am now.
Wow.
He was playing pro hockey. It takes me several tries to get up off the couch.
Wow. And he was still pretty good up until throughout his late 40s, early 50s.
So folks, if you like what you're hearing tonight, go check out hockeydocs.com. If you got a collection that you think is worthy of the collector series, contact him.
Yes.
Let us know. And if you hear of any violence committed by Eric Lindros in the Belleville area, Dan, you're gonna have to come help me out.
I wouldn't mess with Eric Lindros.
Never have told that story.
I know. I was so surprised.
He's still a big guy. No, thank you. That's no. That's all right. He's on our good side again. So safe, the city of Philadelphia. I didn't really have a problem with Eric, but it's a long-winded. I had a more problem with his father, but that's neither here nor there. And a long story. And like I said, I took Bobby's. I'm going to shut up now.
Once again, we got to pull this thing in under 3 hours. So
now I will never stop.
So Angela and Aaron, thanks for joining us. We're glad to have you on. And everybody, all our listeners, check them out at hockeydocs.com.
Thanks,
Dan, where are our listeners going to check you out?
Well, guess what? Just in time for the end of the show, the stream works again. So follow me at Tanlo83.
And Mark, how about you? Where can our listeners follow you online?
You can follow me on my YouTube page, Ballpark Hunter, where I talk about stadiums, food, and baseball-related activities. Subscribe if you like. You can also check me out at Ballpark Hunter on Instagram and on Twitter as well.
You've got the multimedia covered, Mark, huh?
Nice.
It's hard. It's juggling.
Dave, how about you? Where can our listeners follow you online?
Well, with me not going anywhere, my Instagram has been ridiculously quiet.
I noticed. I have posted one Instagram picture since March.
I'm on Twitter.
But you can follow me on Twitter at ProFan9, and I'm still going through the literary journey. So it's sports books and as many as I can rattle off. So Yeah, I've got a good one now. It's on the worst team in the NFL history. The first 2 years of the Bucks.
The Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yeah, the Yucks. It's
That great quote by John McKay, their coach at the time. So what do you think about your team's execution? Yeah, I'm in favor of it.
that's a good one. Yeah. So at ProFan9 on Twitter.
And you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at PuckmanRI. So until our next podcast in 2 weeks, check out our website, stadiumjourney.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram at Stadium Journey. You can find the Stadium Journey podcast at vocnation.com or just search VOC Nation on iTunes or Android. Check out the video simulcast of our podcast on Stadium Journey's YouTube page, or check us out live while we're recording at twitch.tv/danlaw83. And we will all return in 2 weeks when we'll be joined by Stadium Journey's own James Hilchin, who is also the official scorekeeper for the Iowa Cubs. Again, thanks to Angela and Aaron Bell for joining us tonight. For Dan Colachico, Mark Viquez, and Dave Cotney, I'm Paul Baker. Until next time, everyone, take care of yourselves and take care of each other.